Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks. What's up, y'all? This is Dennis Sperling, and I am back at you guys after a long day of work. And I want to revisit Mansa Musa. Why? Because there's so much more I want to share with you guys about Mansa Musa. Things that, you know, his story is so intriguing that it's difficult to just sum him up in an hour that we had a couple of weeks ago. He was referred to as the Lord of Mines, gold mines, salt mines. This was this man. This was our great West African king who was from the same place you from, the richest man in the world. Despite what you've heard, it is not Jeff Bezos, who's worth $360 billion on paper. Now, Jeff Bezos is worth that much because he owns stock in a company. He owns stock in Amazon and other possessions. Mansa Musa was worth $400 billion because he had it in gold and salt and assets that you could actually reach out and touch. See, Amazon could go broke tomorrow and Jeff Bezos would be worth nada. You understand what I'm saying? Mansa Musa was worth $400 billion. The man had lands. He was a king, a ruler of lands that stretched 2,000 miles. It covered his leadership of Mali, stretched across 2,000 miles from the Atlantic Ocean to Lake Chad, and which included all or parts of modern day Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria, and Chad, ensured decades of peace and prosperity. This man, not only was he rich, but he owned he was the king of a landmass the size of the United States. This is who our brother was. Now, here's the thing. And I recall the conversation that we had. And fellas, I want y'all to come in, get this. Let me know that you hear me by hitting the #1 button. Let me know you hear me by hitting the #1 button. It is important that we realize that we are not descendants of slaves, but we are actual descendants of African kings, West African kings, black men that are the ancestors of the people that were captured and brought to the United States, South America, Central America, West Indies. These are our people. This is our genetic heritage. And so when I'm telling you the richest man in the world was Mansa Musa, the first question you should be asking yourself is, who is this black man and why have I never heard about him before? Why do they keep talking about Martin Luther King instead of talking about this rich black king from 1375? Why is that? Why don't we hear about him? And so here's the thing. The way we heard about him was because of the West African chronicles from the 17th century of Tariq al-Fattash. And here's what I want you to listen. See, now here's the thing. I want you guys to understand the reason we're revisiting this, because there was a time when Mansa Musa was confronted by the ruler of Cairo at the time. And that ruler required that everybody who visited him prostrate themselves, which means bend down, kiss the floor, or kiss their feet, basically kiss the ground before this Sultan of Cairo. And there was a back and forth between Mansa. He wasn't trying to do that. I'm like, what are you? I ain't about to kiss your feet. I'm the richest man in the world. You know, I own landmass society. Why would I do that? And so I began to ask myself, why is it? Well, maybe he was just trying to avoid war. He was on his Hajj. He was on his way to Mecca, which is something that all Muslims are required to do. And I'm like, why would he prostrate himself amongst this sultan? Why would he do that? What was he trying to do? Like, he could have just said, no, yeah, there could have been war. I get it. But there had to be something more. And so I began to dig deep into Mansa Musa's personal history, this black man's personal history, and come to find out he had accidentally caused the death of his own mother. And that apparently affected him deeply, to the point that he felt as though he needed to make amends. Now, I'm going to read some things to you because I think it'll become clear once I read this to you guys. All right, so we can know who this rich black king was. We want to know who this king was. He should be as real to you as Malcolm X, as real to you as Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King. This Mansa Musa should be real to you. So I want to talk about it. I want this to be something that you understand thoroughly. And so let's go. Mansa Musa's, the famous 17th century West African chronicle, that al-fattash has this interesting passage concerning Mansa Musa. As for Mansa Musa's pilgrimage, the reason for it was told to me by the student and keeper of the traditions of the ancestors, Muhammad Quma, who mentioned that Malika, king of Mali, Kankan Musa, is the one who accidentally killed his mother, Nana Kankan. This happened sometime before his ascent to the throne. So before he even became king, this is when this accident happened. Mansa Musa was sorrowful about this and regretted it and feared retribution for it. So he gave large amounts of wealth and alms and resolved to fast and fast the rest of his life. He asked some of the learned ones, some of the scholars of his time, what he should do to be forgiven for this great offense. One of them said to him, "It is in my opinion, you should seek asylum with the messenger of God. May God bless him and grant him peace." That very day, he resolutely made up his mind and began to gather wealth and provisions for the journey, calling upon his kingdom on every side and demanding supplies and assistance. So basically, he said the wise man said the only way that you can be forgiven, Mansa, for accidentally causing the death of your mother is to make the pilgrimage to Hajj and ask the messenger of God to bless you and forgive you. And so what did he? He began to gather all that he could, all the wealth he could, because he knew he was going to stunt the hardest. Now here's the other thing. On his way, because he's looking for forgiveness, and he was going to get great things for Islam so he could be forgiven. It's not clear if this woman was his actual mother or his grandmother or his half sibling's mother. But regardless, matricide, that's the killing of your mother, even accidental, would have been a huge deal, especially within the royal family. Since his story only appears in Tariq al-Fattah, it can't be corroborated with other texts, but it would be consistent with some other odd facts about Mansa Musa. Let's hear. First is the fact that his mother's name was Kankan and is systematically appended to his own Mansa Kankan or Kankan or Musa, okay? Meaning King Musa, son of Kankan. So what that's basically doing is branding his mother's name to his, like, yeah, that's how you King Musa, son of Kankan, you killed your mom. They're branding him with that. And see, the thing is, this is not a common naming scheme for other monarchs in Mali. This is not something they did in common. This was something for him. His very name may show that his attempts to appease royal family members and others by giving alms and fasting. In other words, I'm sorry, I'm gonna give you things. I'm sorry, look, fell on deaf ears. In other words, they weren't trying to hear that. And that his crime, which is what it was never forgotten or forgiven. Another element is that Tariq al-Fattash praises him as a virtuous, God-fearing, and a worshiper, listing his accomplishments before bringing up this detail about the situation with his mom, as if to mitigate the horrendous nature of the act. Mansa Musa is consistently portrayed in Islamic sources as a model of piety, listing all of his virtues and his exemplary acts of devotion, like the mosque that he built and his liberation of Muslim slaves, etc. So when I say mosque, he built a mosque every Friday on that 4,000-mile journey from West Africa to Mecca. He built a mosque every Friday. This is what he would. I mean, you want to talk about overdoing it, representing for your set, representing for your religion, putting it on for your beliefs. You build a church every Friday, not pray every Friday. You build a mosque every Friday. This is what he did. And here's another thing, and it's something you need to understand. In West Africa, history wasn't necessarily written down. It was kept orally, oral traditions. So the oral traditions are definitely silent about Mansa Musa, arguably one of the greatest Malian Mansas, greatest Malian kings ever, and he's never mentioned once. This silence could be simply because he's eclipsed, like many other subsequent kings, by Sundiata, the legendary hero of Mandaean or Mali oral tradition, who founded the empire of Mali. But the oral histories do mention some other kings, so that can't be true. So here's what they're thinking. They're thinking that these damn griots, right? Because the griots was the ones in charge of keeping the oral history. They could have deliberately censored Mansa Musa and not told his story, and wrote it and basically didn't speak of it about it in his histories because of his great offense, because him accidentally killing his mom was a very serious matter. And so it wasn't until later that this resurfaced and his story resurfaced. Here's the last thing. Mansa Musa clearly was very pleasing to the Muslims within and without the lands, building mosques, encouraging the study of Islam, building centers of Islamic learning, welcoming Muslim scholars, and of course his extravagant Hajj that calls for the price of gold to be depreciated for 12 years after he passed through. All of these things could be motivated in part because of his guilt or fear of retribution from God. But here's the other thing, more realistically, it also could be something because of internal intrigue following his matricide, meaning he needed outside support because of what he'd done. So he was basically trying to buy friends, family. This is what I'm trying to tell y'all. This is very interesting. Now check this out, right? We know the story of when Mansa Musa made his way to Cairo, and he had to. And one of the customs was, when you enter into Cairo, you had to go visit the Sultan, right? You had to go visit the Sultan, and what did you have to do? One of the traditions was you bend down and you kiss the Sultan's feet. Now imagine this, right? You got this uber rich black king from West Africa who's traveled nearly 4,000 miles on his way to Mecca to pray for forgiveness, to see God's representative, to ask for forgiveness for his transgression. Now, the thing is, he tried to avoid visiting this man. Okay, he did his very best. Apparently, the Sultan's aide came to see him and said, "Hey, I need one of the customers. You got to come on over here to the citadel, and you got to kiss the Sultan's feet. I don't care who you are, sir. Now keep in mind, African slavery had been going on. So they've been actually grabbing up black folks, grabbing Africans, and shipping them off to the Arab world and have them be enslaved. So this Sultan probably had black slaves himself. Now slavery was common, but I'm just saying, they probably had black slaves. So he probably had a certain way he saw and perceived Africans as less than him, right? So here you got this rich black king coming through your town, passing out all this gold, making you look like a small man on the throne that you can't compare. Everybody, yeah, I know, Sultan, you got money, but man, Mansa Musa came through with all that. Mansa Musa came through. They said that the amount of gold that he came to Egypt with, it put to shame the African sun. That's how shiny and flossy and and golden he was. He put to shame the African sun. Woo! That's a lot of gold, man. That's a lot of gold. And so imagine now how this Sultan, how small he feels. You know, him sitting in there, as the king of Cairo, and the real champion comes to town. Imagine how small he felt. Imagine that. So now where are we? He's forced him to come visit. Okay. He's forced him to come in the citadel. So here he is. All right, here he is. Let's read the story. From the beginning of my coming to stay in Egypt, I heard talk of the arrival of the Sultan Musa on his pilgrimage and found it eager to recount what they had seen the Africans prodigal spending. I asked the emir, and he told me of the opulence, manly virtues, and the piety of his sultan. When I went out to meet him, he said that is on my behalf of the mighty Sultan al-Malik al-Nasir. He did me extreme honor and treated me with greatest courtesy. He addressed me, however, only through his interpreter, despite his perfect ability to speak the Arabic language, Arabic tongue. So basically, the Sultan sends his boy to say, hey, man, the Sultan want to see you come through. And Mansa wouldn't talk to him directly. He had his interpreter talk to him in Arabic, even though Mansa himself spoke perfect Arabic. So then what happened? Then he forwarded to the royal treasury many loads of unworked native gold and other values. In other words, look, I'm not coming, but I'm going to send you all this gold. This is all for the Sultan. Just leave me be. Okay. Then what? Then the Sultan's boy said, I tried to persuade him to go up to the citadel to meet the Sultan, but he refused persistently. In other words, I'm like, look, man, yeah, I appreciate the gold, man, but the Sultan needs to see you at the spot. Come through, man. We're going to fire up something. We're going to have some drinks. We're going to chill. But you got to come through, man. You got to come through. You got to come have a sit down. You got to come check in. You can't come through here with all this gold, but you got to come check in. And then Mansa was like, nah, man, I gave you the gold. I'm cool. And then what did he say? He said, look, this is what Mansa told him. He said, I came for the privilege and nothing else. I came for my pilgrimage and nothing else. I do not wish to mix anything else with my pilgrimage. And he had begun to use his argument, but I realized that the audience was repugnant to him because he would be obliged to kiss the ground in the Sultan's hand. I continued to cajole him and continue to make excuses, but the Sultan's prodigal demanded that I should bring him into the royal presence. So I kept on at him till he agreed. So basically what's happening is you got this rich black man who's on his Hajj. He's been told, I got to go out here. I got to do this, man. I accidentally killed my mom, my mother, a maternal figure, whoever she was. And so I got to make amends for that. So I'm out here passing out gold. I'm building mosques. I'm trying to get myself right with the Lord. I know I'm not going to live every day. I'm trying to be a good Muslim. But I got to go up here and kiss this man's feet. I got to go down here and kiss the ground and kiss this man's hand. I'm Mansa Musa. I don't do that. Why would I do that? I'm coming over here to this second-rate city. I'm just passing through, man. Here, take this gold and go. But so his dude that was next to him finally said, look, man, you got to go, man. It is what it is, man. You got to go. And so when he came in the Sultan's presence, he was said to him, what? What did the Sultan say? Kiss the ground. But Mansa refused, outright saying, how may this be? Who do you think you're talking to? Basically, that's what Blood said. Who do you think you're talking to? And then an intelligent man who was with Mansa Musa whispered to him something we could not understand, and he said, I make obeisance to God who created me. And then what did he do? He then prostrated himself, which means laid himself out on the ground, and went forward to the Sultan. The Sultan half rose to greet him and sat him up beside him, and they conversed together for a long time. And the Sultan Musa went out. So my question is this, man, and this is what I ask myself: why fight it if you're gonna do it? Well, what's up? What's the conflict? You got the richest man in the world, and he knew it because they knew what was going on up in they knew what was going on in Europe. Remember, the Moors were all up in Spain at this time. The Moors were all up there. They was all running up through there. They knew what was going on in Europe was in squalor. No sanitation system. He'd been there. He know. They wasn't living like they were living in the Malay in Mali, West Africa. They had it all. They had the mine, they had the golds, they had everything. They had the buildings, they had it all. He knew he was the richest man in the world. And he bent down and kissed the ground. Why? What did the wise man say to him? And why did they make it a point to tell you he said something to him that we could not understand? He was probably speaking some native West African language. There are plenty of them to choose from. And he said, look, bro, and can you imagine what the wise man said to him? Mansa, you know why you're here. You're here to make amends, bro. It's bigger than you. You're here to make amends. You come all this way. You brought all these people with you. And you're going to let kissing this ground stop you from doing what God wants you to do to make amends? Yeah, I know you don't want to do it, Mansa. I know you richer than this chump, this Sultan chump right here. I know that. But we're here to do something. And so what did Mansa say? I make obeisance to God who created me. In other words, I'm not doing this for you. I'm going to tuck my ego. I'm going to tuck my flag. I'm going to tuck my pride. And I'm going to do this because this is what God wants me to do. And what did the man whispered something in his ear, something they couldn't understand. And Mansa said, I make obeisance to God who created me. And then he prostrated himself and went forward to the Sultan. This is what Mansa do. Now, the crazy thing is, those of you who have read the Holy Quran, and I hope you have, even if you're a Christian, I understand and trust. And look, I ask for correction from my Muslim brothers. But understanding Islam, I do believe that when a Muslim is on a Hajj, he is not to be interrupted by another. In other words, you can't wage war against a Muslim when you know that Muslim is on Hajj, on his way to Mecca. It is against their rules. So the fact that this Sultan did this and interrupted him and made him come, that's why Mansa said, I'm here for my Hajj, man. I'm not here to kick it with you, take this gold, go about your business, I'm cool. But he still did it anyway. This is why I tell you, black men, you have got to be God's first creation. You got to be. I mean, because your heart, your connection, your humility, how humble is this man? The richest man in the world. And because he had made this mistake and accidentally caused the death of his own mother, he was willing to do what? Make this huge sacrifice, spend all this wealth, spend all this time. It took years, a couple of years to get over there and back. 4,000 miles across land with all these people away from his country. It took years. This is what the black man did. This is what the richest black men, look at what the richest white men do. They create diseases and stuff and shots and kill people. You know what I'm saying? This is what they do. You know, this is the stuff they do. They talk about we need to eliminate people from the earth. You know, we got to, this is the nature, totally different nature. You black men need to recognize this is who you come from. You African brothers, you black American brothers, you West African. These are the people that you come from. The gracious, the love. How pious was this man? This man is worth $400 billion, real money. And this is what he's willing to do. All because what? In order to repent for what he done. This is the nature of the black man. This is who you are. And you should never accept anybody's definition of you as a black man. This is who you are at heart. He didn't have to do that. He could have waged war. He could have said, hell with you, and there would have been a problem. People would have died, but you know, whatever. Egos trip. But that's not what he did. What a beautiful man. What a great leader. A great leader. And the ridicule that he had to suffer. Yeah, that's Mansa, son of Kankan, reminding him that he killed his mom. Isn't that something? This is what he had to do. He could have very well had all them people killed. You see? If he wanted to. The emperor himself rode on horseback and was directly preceded by 500 enslaved persons, each carrying a gold-adorned staff. In addition, Mansa Musa had a baggage train of 80 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold. Mansa Musa's prodigious generosity and piety, as well as the fine clothes and exemplary behavior of his followers, everybody was on great behavior, did not fail to create the most favorable impression. These people traveled 4,000 miles and they was dressed immaculately. They were mannerable. They were dressed in fine clothes. The black emperor's great civility notwithstanding, the meeting between the two rulers might have ended in serious diplomatic incident, for so absorbed was Mansa Musa in his religious observance that he was only with difficulty persuaded to pay formal visit to the Sultan. This is who you were descended from. This is important that we learn about Mansa Musa. We learn about who this man really was. So yeah, you know, he wasn't just stunting. He wasn't just paying out gold, flossing and stunting. He was trying to do something. He was trying to make friends. He was trying to create allies. He was trying to show humility. This is what this man was doing. And so, but what he did was so disgraceful. What did they do? They basically wrote him out of the history because he accidentally killed his mother. And the crazy thing is, these Muslims, these West African Muslims, they were kinder to their women than the Arab Muslims were. And in fact, here's the crazy thing. When Mansa returned, all right, and this is something else we need to understand. Completion of his pilgrimage earned for Musa the coveted title of al-Hajj. Okay, so after a Muslim makes his pilgrimage to Mecca, they refer to him as al-Hajj, like Malcolm X or Malcolm Shabazz. And what do they call him after he returned? El-Hajj, El-Malik, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, right? That was when Malcolm X made his. That's why they call it El-Hajj. So that signifies to everyone else that he made the Hajj. But his experience also taught him a great deal about Orthodox Islam. And he returned to Mali with a strong desire to reform Islam there. He brought with him North African architects and scholars to carry out his tasks. But Islam remained, as before, the religion of the towns. What does that mean? That means they worship religion, they worship Islam in the city, but in the country folks, the majority of the people lived in the country they continue to follow Malinke religions and beliefs, or as the white folk, that voodoo, those traditional African beliefs. This is an important lesson, okay? This is an important lesson because it's going to carry over into our conversation that we have tomorrow, whatever day I have scheduled for it, I'm not sure. But this is an important conversation. Why? Because see, what you're going to find is some of the scholars, some of the Black Muslim scholars, right? Some of the theologians said, you know what? You can trap and enslave those Black people over there, those ones that don't worship Allah or are not Muslim, but you can't get you can get those ones that don't praise Allah or don't worship, but you got to leave the Black Muslims alone. We talked about this, I believe, last week. I believe the conversation we had when we talked about Ahmad Baba, leader of the Songhai Empire. We talked about him. He was one of those ones that said that. And so we got some more of that coming. We'll talk about that tomorrow, but that's an important lesson. So it's important to understand that not all of the West Africans who were captured and brought to the United States were Muslim. Matter of fact, they basically said you can't make slaves out of Black Muslims. We know you're doing slavery, but you can't make it out of Black Muslims. You got to leave them alone. Now, I'm sure there was some Black Muslims captured anyway. I'm sure of it after a while. Basically, our study of slavery lets you know after a while, they was making up reasons to snatch folks up. They ain't really care. But this is an important lesson because, see, in addition, Mansa Musa was one of those that said you can't take Black Muslims into slavery, African Muslims. But again, remember, as this statement said, Islam was worshipped in the towns. The country people, they still kept their traditional African religions. So this is interesting, and this should be real to you. This should be something that this is your history. See, all of this is before 1492. This is in 1375, 1335. This is this is your history, right before Columbus and the Europeans came and messed with the West Coast. This is what y'all would do, okay? What else did Mansa Musa do? Musa developed diplomatic ties with the North African states and thereby facilitated an unprecedented growth of trans-Saharan trade, which in turn further enriched and strengthened the imperial government. Internal commerce and agriculture flourished, and the order and prosperity found in Mali in 1352 and 1353 by famous Arab traveler Ibn Battuta were largely attributable to Musa's enlightened leadership early in the century. When did he die? On his death in 1337, Musa was succeeded by his son, Mansa Musa, who reigned from 1337 to 1341, who had ruled during Musa's visit to Mecca and Cairo. So Mansa Musa died in 1337. All right, this is not that long ago in history times. This is our king. This was our West African king. He ruled over a land big as the United States, 2,000 miles from the Atlantic. From the Atlantic Ocean. This is what he ruled. And we already talked about Abu Bakr II, who said, "Look, give me, these ships, and I'm gone." And he ended up in Trinidad, made his way up to Brazil, and apparently made his way up to the Dominican Republic, or what we call now Hispaniola. But I thought it was important to revisit this. I want you guys to come in. Anybody, if you appreciate what we're doing here, if you like this, if you want to continue these sort of conversations, we can do this. We can do the other stuff. We can do this. We can talk about social issues. We can talk about relationships. But I think it's very important that we also talk to you about Black men and the history of Black men in this world. And you really can't get no blacker than Mansa Musa. And the fact that many of us were stolen from those lands where Mansa Musa ruled lets us know that this was at one time our ancestors' king. And we should know about our king. This is a real life coming to America. This is a real life Black Panther. This is a real life kingdom that we can relate to, of a Black man that looked like many of us look right now. You see? This is our king. This is Mansa Musa, or an image of him. This bearded, gold-ridden Black man with this gold scepter and this crown on his head and this afro. That's what our brothers and sisters look like. We didn't need what the Europeans were offering. We didn't need their religion. We had religion. We had Islam. We had our native religion. We had all of that. And if we had Islam, you know, we had Christianity too. Because Christianity predates Islam, at least as brought to us by the Muhammad, the prophet, peace be unto him. This is what I'm saying. If you appreciate this, make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. Shout out to John Guillory. He said, thanks for the great history lessons, Dennis. John Smith says, thanks for the lesson. I appreciate that. I hope this helps, man. New member, shout out to my man, Jan Jack. Make sure you join, folks, fellas. Make sure you join the, make sure you join the channel. I need you guys to join the channel. It's real easy. All you got to do is click on the button right below the screen, right below the icon where we have the like button. Click right here, right there where it says join. Just click on that. Bam. That's what's going to pop up. Join the channel. Make sure you join that and hit those little buttons, man. I want to see y'all get some of them little pictures that I took time finding, man. We got Mansa Musa on there, man. I want to see who's going to be the first person who hits that Mansa Musa icon when they donate, of my members. That's what I want to see happen. Shout out to James Jack. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. This is our history. You see what I'm saying, brothers? This is what this empowers you. See, they can't steal something. This is what they stole from us. And what we need to do is get it back. This is recent history. This is Mansa Musa. This man died in 1337. 1492, Columbus made his way, got lost, ended up in Jamaica somewhere. Went back, went to the DR, kept coming, hey, whatever, Puerto Rico. Made 4 trips, never made it to the US. But that's okay. This is our history right here. Mansa Musa. Now, Marty W says, how did this not become a movie? Look, bro, look, the thing is, man, as I said earlier, and you guys come in, if y'all want to talk about this, the link is in the chat room. There it is. Come on in. How did this not become a movie? Well, remember, the West African griots, they basically apparently have had a strike and refused to talk about him because maybe they're ashamed of the fact that he had committed matricide and that he had accidentally killed his mother, whatever. But they refuse to talk about him. They don't even talk about Abu Bakr II. Why? Because they don't like the fact that he ran off with the ships and abdicated the throne. Look, I'm out. These black men were doing what the hell they wanted to do. That's what I do notice. They were doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. And the griots, the ones sit back to left to write about it, they wrote them out of history. Even though they didn't write, they had oral tradition. They basically passed it down. So these brothers were doing what they wanted. They were SYSBM on steroids. Okay, they was like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Abu Bakr II said, I'm out. Hook me up 400 ships. I'm gonna go over to the other side of this river, which you call the Atlantic Ocean, but it's got to be a river. Okay, I'm looking. Look, you got this bank. There's got to be another bank over there. I'm going over there. What happened? One ship came back. Okay, hook me up 2,000 ships. Fill it up with gold and women and provisions, and we out. And he was never seen on the continent again. This was the king that came before Mansa Musa. These are 2 amazing men. These were 2 amazing men. These were 2 amazing black kings that we can look at and say, this is This is not made up. There's historical accounts of these men. It was written. This is real. This is real life. This is what we were doing. Why is it not a movie? Well, one of y'all need to make it. What up, John? How you doing, bro?
Hey, man. How's it going, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm excited about revisiting Mansa Musa. Okay. Do you understand why? Because now I have a better understanding of this man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my man Kildu said Abu Bakr II was the first SYSBM. You show you right on that, man. But it's in our blood. The whole world was out. We circumvented the globe. You see what I'm saying? We got brothers that's afraid to go down to damn Colombia. Like, man, this whole planet is yours, man. You got this black man, Mansa Musa. He packed up. Everybody took a bunch of gold, walked from West Africa all the way to Mecca, 4,000 miles, and came back. But and I can't get you to take a flight to the Dominican Republic. What's up with that? Explain that to me, as they say, John Smith. Explain that. Talk to me, bro. What do you want to add to this conversation? And y'all get the likes up, man. Y'all make sure y'all get the contributions up. You know this is good for your soul. You know this got you feeling good. You know this does. So make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. John, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, thanks for revisiting this. This is a very empowering piece of our history, as you know, as African men in the Americas. But the biggest thing I'd like to say is, well, one of the points I'd like to bring out is because, you know, I'll start with this analogy. I'll start with this first. You know, if you see a cage lion in a zoo, he moves differently. He's comfortable. But if you see that lion in the wild, you know, a lion that's been, running across the Serengeti all his life, he's free. You know, he has, that mental fortitude to keep pushing and going and knowing that he has his own agency. And that has been stolen from us, and we don't know how to get back there. It's based like a compass, and we have been misdirected. So that's why you see now a lot of African-American men or that really can't get out of their own way because they've lost that. And when you said earlier, why wasn't this made into a movie? Because why would they highlight anything positive about black men? Why?
Bro, the crazy part is our own people we got griots who, why don't y'all bring up Mansa Musa? You know what this is like, man? This is like when I first started practicing law. I didn't know anything about something called personal injury protection. Okay, and so it wasn't until I asked the justice, I said, well, what about the personal injury protection? Oh, well, yeah, we have $5,000 in that. You want me to send it to you? That's what these African griots are like.
Yeah.
What about you telling me about Sangata and all? What about Mansa Musa and Abu Bakr II? Oh, well, yeah, Mansa Musa, the thing about him, he was the richest man in the world, 400 million. So you knew about this and you never said nothing to me. And what about Abu Bakr II? Well, yeah, we didn't like him because, he ran off and took all the ships and he abdicated his throne. He was supposed to stay here and sit on this throne and be the king, but he decided he wanted to go off to the other side of the river, which you call the Atlantic Ocean, and be in Brazil and Trinidad and the Dominican Republic. Well, why our own griots, we some hard-headed people, brother. You hear me? African boy.
I agree with you.
You just gonna keep that from us. Just not gonna tell us the richest man that ever existed and the first African. There was a black man that traveled to the New World before Columbus because you just mad at him because he abdicated the throne in a way you didn't like. He quit and said, I'm gonna go be a sailor. And then you mad at the other one because he accidentally, his mom caused his mom's death. So you just going to erase him out of history. He built a mosque every Friday on a 4,000-mile journey, and you just not gonna tell us about that just because you don't like him?
Well,
go ahead, bro.
well, you know what, brother? I also think that at the same time, who knows? There are probably some hidden agendas and cooperation going on with that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so because they don't want, you know, if they bring something like that, you know, and I'll step back to a video I saw floating around social media probably a few years ago, and it was an older black woman. She was pastoring a church someplace in the South. I don't know exactly where, and she said. And she stated that she's glad that she's American because nothing out of Africa came, you know, nothing good out of Africa came, no ships, nothing like that. So she was miseducated, you know, and preaching that preaching that false narrative to a congregation of people that were following like sheep. However, the other side of it is, you know, we have miseducation. We have, of course, misdirected education, and all these things that prevent us from actually learning our history and researching. And of course, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't prop up the dominant society. So of course, it's going to be erased and whitewashed.
Well, they're definitely not pushing it in the local history class in the 8th grade. I can tell you that. But go ahead, bro.
Yeah. And, you know, at the same time, you know, it's up to us as Black folks to dig back and find our history, because, you know, we've gone through certain traumas that we try to disassociate ourselves from our history and our past, because all we think about it starts with slavery, especially in the Americas, slavery. And our mind automatically goes into that space. And it's like, no, there was a whole other history, you know, before that. And the reason I got dialed up into this is because, of course, of Dr. Clark. You know, he was the one that started talking about how we had advanced civilizations, and, you know, we knew medicine and astrology, engineering way before they were, while Europeans were sitting in caves, in the Caucasus Mountains. Yeah,
I mean, even worse than that, man. This is, and I just want you guys to know, this is downtown Lagos, Nigeria, right here. This is the capital of Lagos. This is what the downtown looks like. Okay, this is the nightlife, the skyscrapers. This is what they look like. You don't see no huts and all that, man. Don't look, anything, I hate to say this, anything white folks and ignorant Negroes tell you, you do the opposite. That's what I want y'all. Ignorant Negroes and white folks are on the same scene. Anything they tell you, you do the opposite. It really is racist, bigoted white folks. Anything ignorant Negroes and bigoted white folks tell you, you do the exact opposite, and you'll have a better outcome. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, Africa is. I haven't been there yet. I know enough people from there. They have a wonderful education system. That's why many of the people they sent to this country already have PhDs and come over here and get another PhD. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and we have, and once again, as us as Africans, we need to understand that we are all connected. You know, we got fractured, and however we got over here in this situation. And I'll say this: we have to realize as Africans, you know, from the diaspora, that we are behind enemy lines, and you know, and it's warfare. And in essence, we have to be on guard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and you have to treat it as such. You have to guard your mind. You have to guard your body. You have to guard, you know, the information that you get and you keep. And as and I share with my son, because of course, you know, he's a young man, entering, you know, in his first year of college. And I told him, I said, it's not your responsibility to teach white folks about racism. It's not your responsibility.
They already know.
Exactly. They already know what they're doing, and they're just trying to figure out what you know.
That's why we don't do that here on this page. But and just for you guys to know, look, this is a beach in Ghana. This is what the beaches in Ghana look like. Okay, this is a resort in Ghana right here. Okay, brothers. Now, at some point in the next 5 or 10 years, a lot of you black men are gonna start traveling to Ghana like you do to the Dominican Republic. Y'all ain't quite there yet, but this is what the resorts look like over there. Just so you know, this is look how beautiful that is. Many of you were taken from areas right up around where this is. But this is what this is what your homeland looks like. This is what Africa looks like. You don't see a bunch of trees and all that savage, all that stuff they pretend. White folks love going over there. You see what I'm saying? They're more, anytime I go with black, it's always more white folks than black folks visiting there when I go visit these different places where black people are. But this is where your home, this is where Mansa Musa was hanging out, okay? A couple of 100 years ago. This is what he was doing, all right? He was chilling like this. So I want you guys to go get your Mansa Musa on, all right? I want you to go hang out in Ghana. I want you to go to the motherland and see what that feel like, because you really don't know until you feel like. Wouldn't you like to be sitting under one of these palm trees somewhere next summer? Let's see if we can pull this picture up. Wouldn't you like to be sitting underneath that palm tree somewhere, man? Chilling, fellas. This is yours. This is all for you. You keep that in mind. When you got people trying to separate you from your African heritage, oh, we ain't black, we American. Okay, brother, you go ask that cop there and see what he has to say to you about that. You know, I'm light skinned. I know some mulatto dudes. They black too. And the crazy thing, when you really go to Africa, you see it's Africans in all sorts of shades and colors and whatnot. We're all one people. And there's more. You cannot let see, the blood that runs in our veins is thicker than the rivers of water that divide us. Keep that in mind. Just because you are African over here in America and they're African over in the continent, or they're African down in Haiti, or African in Dominican Republic, Colombia, whatever. The blood that runs in our veins is thicker than the rivers of water that divide us. That's what that means. Blood is thicker than water, but most people just don't get the whole thing and they don't understand what's being said. Remember that the blood that runs in our veins is thicker than the rivers of water that divide us. Y'all keep that in mind. But anyway, John, what else you got to say to the brothers on this conversation?
When you said about the blood being thick, being thick, and this is true because recently here I did an ancestry and a 23andMe. And of course, guess where my blood, guess where like 49% of my bloodline comes from? Mali.
There we go. Okay.
And Nigeria. So, and if I disassociate it, I can't disassociate myself from my people, nor should they disassociate themselves from me. They should, we have to understand each other's pain and say, hey, we have to work cooperatively together to try to unite. But back onto the subject at hand, instead of always, and religion is an instrument and a tool for that, but you need to study history. Yeah. And because we think about, this, because we know, especially in America, we talk about the Civil War, World War I, World War II. And then you skip it's like they skip over a lot of things and they go, medieval times. What was Africa doing in medieval times?
Right. That was Mansa Musa. That's what he was doing. He was passing out gold.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And because they skip over it, and they skip over Africa for that purpose. Because they know this. He was a guy out there doing things. Our country was, so robust. We were so far advanced. And while they were sitting there, grilling, living in the woods somewhere.
The struggle was real. I mean, I put a video up about what Mansa Musa was doing, and I can pull that up again. But the main thing you brothers need to understand is the reason that see, after Mansa Musa made his pilgrimage, made his Hajj, the rest of the world found out just how rich West Africa was. So what did the Europeans do? They do what they've been doing. They doing what the Vikings do. The Vikings, and they would always come down and raid the Europeans and take all their stuff. They would go over to Scotland and England and rob them and take all the stuff they had to offer. You see what I'm saying? So they was used to robbing and pillaging and jacking and robbing. That's what they did. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when they found out, you mean all we got to do is sail a little bit past the Rock of Gibraltar and go down there and get all this gold. They got gold flowing out of everything. And so they went down there and they began to war with Africa, making up wars with Africa. They robbed them of all their gold, burned all their books, all that sort of stuff. And then what happened? Then they took that wealth and then they went to war with Africa. So it was really after this they discovered how rich West Africa was. They came in and took our stuff. You see what I mean? And then Europe became rich. They built themselves up and they said, well, damn, let's go on over there let's go follow Abu Bakr II. You see what I mean? There was a man on Columbus's boat called Pedro Alonso Nina. He was West African. Mind you, Abu Bakr II had, it was less than 100 some years, a couple hundred years ago. The writings were still around. The scholars were still around. They knew what he had done. Columbus knew that there was West Africa. He knew that Africans would sail over to the New World already. He knew that. That's why he was so confident. It's land over there. The world is round. How did he know? Because he grew up along the west coast of Africa, dealing with those African scholars. They knew what was up. You see what I'm saying? You see, he brought Pedro Alonso Nina with him for a reason. You see? And so what I'm trying to tell you, they took our knowledge and our money. They took our gold. They took all our stuff. And then they took credit for our stuff. And then kidnapped y'all and me. And then told us wasn't nothing over there but baboons and whatnot. You see what I'm saying? They outright, y'all been dealing with us for 2,000 years. And then you take some of us, change our names and religion, keep us cordoned off over here and say y'all descended from baboons and monkeys. Whereas half them educated white folks who were from Europe had actually been on the west coast of Africa. And they saw all that existed there. You see what I'm saying, man? It's a trip when you really if you really sit down and put this story together, you be like, man, damn. And it's right below the surface. It's not hard. It's not complicated. You see what I mean? Go ahead, bro.
What's like this, Dennis, right?
Yeah.
You know, when we think about, you know, because we always think, you know, and for me, I've always been a kind of like a history connoisseur. And when I think about history, when you think about history, especially in the Americas, they want you to think in terms of the next 5 to 10 years, always, right? But if you go any place else in the world, they're talking about generational stuff. You know, things that happened to their fourth great grandfather, and they can tell you that information. But they want to disconnect us from it because they know how great we are. But we fell asleep trying to integrate into their systems. And the thing about the integration,
they told us that what we had was inferior, that we descended from monkeys and all that sort of stuff. That's why we didn't want to have nothing to do with that. Everybody has a certain degree of pride. You see what I mean? And it's not like we had the fast airplanes that we have now. We could zip over there from New York, zip back in 8 hours. Man, there's plenty of good stuff going. See, what's happening now, and I'm going to let our Alexis pop up here. What's happening now, man, is brothers got their passports. And I know a lot of people don't like black men traveling. I understand why. Because once you realize you have better options in the United States, many of you brothers are going to exercise those options. Many of you brothers are going to bounce. You're going to leave. Many of those men who went overseas as military, they never came back. They got some black men who got children over in France. Some little French children with black granddaddies from America. You see what I'm saying? Because those brothers went. So what's going to happen when you brothers start when passports become the thing, we go from 2% of black people with passports to like 30, 40, 50% of it. When it becomes the thing to do, many of you brothers are going to bounce. It's going to be, and I say in about 10 years, maybe 15, in about 10 to 15, you're going to realize we've been talking about it's going to be another George Floyd incident. It's going to be another Trayvon Martin. It's going to keep happening. And you're going to realize there's no political solution for it. There's no monetary solution for it. The only thing you can really do is get up out of here if you want peace of mind and happiness. That's all you're going to be able to do. And the brothers are going to say, well, damn, I'm going to Africa. Damn, I'm going to South America. You're going to get out of here. It is what it is. It just because it's human nature. We did it before. The reason that we left the South, the Great Migration, where we all moved, because we left. And I'm sure it was people down South saying, y'all need to stay here. Why you going to Detroit, Chicago? You scary. You say you just, as I always say that, but we left anyway. And this is what's going to happen. You see what I mean? You got 64% of black men in the middle class. What you gonna do when you think they 25 years old right now and they crack 40 G's? And then in another 10, 15 years, they up to 100 G. You think they're gonna sit around and deal with this? They're not. They're not gonna do it. You're gonna start leaving, and then they're gonna start going to Africa, and you'll see, bro. You'll see. Nature always wins. People always go back to their source. Thanks, John Smith. What else you got to add? Then we're gonna go to our Alexis.
Well, and as you stated, I mean, that was beautifully stated. You know, us as black men, we have to try to we have to realize our own power. You know, we have to exercise some agency over our own existence, because, as you stated, we can't educate our way into living harmoniously with a dominant society. We can't integrate with them, because it's like we just can't associate with them, because they don't want us around.
They don't want your black butt.
Yeah, they don't want us around. So you know,
your black butt. And they're gonna keep treating you like that, no matter how much money you got. But go ahead, brother.
But you know, Dennis, when you stated that in the next 10 to 15 years there could be a great migration to other spaces, I guarantee you, if that starts happening, and then all the negative, ills of America that they can't point their finger at and say it's because of these guys, when that starts happening, they're probably gonna say it's gonna cost $100,000 for you to get a passport. I guarantee.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, 100. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna make it more difficult for you to give up your American citizenship.
There you go.
In other words, instead of having to pay $2,000, I think it's $20,000 now. In 10, 15 years, they're gonna say you need to give us $100,000 if you're gonna be an American forever.
Yep, exactly.
We're gonna grab your ass. We're gonna hold on to your black ass as long as we can, man.
Yep.
Hey, look, man, but I want to share something with y'all, man. I got a video I put out, and it's befitting of this moment, man. It's called Black Kings, man. And the video is not ready, but the music is up. And I just want y'all to listen to this. And then we're going to go to my man, Alexis, who's been waiting patiently. Let me see if I can get this thing all the way up on the screen. I said I got a theater mode. Y'all check this out, man. We'll be right back. Amen. Amen. I was on one on that day when I recorded that album, man. What's up, John? Thank you for waiting, man. I just felt that song was befitting. You understand what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
most definitely, man.
I needed to get that out, man. That's gonna be the next video you guys see from my catalog. I like to put them up there, and for one thing, it lets you know that you can do whatever you want to do. You can be a lawyer, a daddy, a rapper, a world traveler, whatever the hell you want to do. This world belongs to you. But in the meantime, man, John, thank you so much. Alexis, you've been waiting patiently, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming back. We were talking about Mansa Musa, and we revisited him. What are your thoughts on this thing, man? The floor is yours, man. Just take it. What do you got to say? Give me. Let's talk about it. What's on your mind?
Good evening. I mean, with Mansa Musa, one thing I do see as far as with the story is that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
Him having to go to Mecca and use all that money to basically bankrupt the economy of Egypt, let the world know how rich West Africa was, which led to us being enslaved and being shipped to the New World. It was a great thing. I understand why he did it, but it set into motion slavery, the greatest crime in history. So I understand black men love to show off, but there's got to be a time and place where we have to learn to restrain ourselves.
And I want to
worry about shining.
I want to put that in some parameters because, okay, so basically what Alexis is saying, Mansa Musa, he made his Hajj. He felt obligated to do it. He was trying to make amends for his mother's death, right? He accidentally killed his mother, okay? So he made his Hajj. Through that, the world found out how rich West Africa was. So what did they do? They came down and robbed West Africa, leaving it with nothing. What was left? Just people. And they needed to rebuild their country. So what did they do? They became dependent on selling black people, African people, to these Europeans who used them to help build the new country. This was their last resource. And this is basically what happened. Isn't that cold-blooded, brother? The paved with good, what do you say that? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Woo!
Correct. The road to hell is paved with good intention.
You know, and I was thinking that, but you know, you're the first one to have brought it up. Like, man, you know, what if he just stayed home and prayed on it? You know, what if he had just kept it secret? I mean, how many black people do we know got robbed because they was counting their money on TikTok and somebody pulled up on them? You see what I mean?
There you go.
How many rappers do you know got their chain took because they was out there stunting on it and they got it? It's like you make yourself a target. A friend of mine said this. He said, and this is on my Facebook page. I got some really brilliant guys on my Facebook page. I hope you guys join Facebook. Go to my Facebook page, Dennis Sperling. But he said, look, Dennis, you know, you always talk about going to these overseas and building up all this money over. I said, all you doing, he said, all you doing, if you're amassing wealth, all you doing is creating a bank for your enemies. If you're amassing wealth without a defense, without a military, you just creating a bank for your enemies to come rob. I'm like, wow. And that's all Mansa Musa did. Point out that we got bank, we rolling over here. They hungry in Europe. They living in squalor in Europe. They got these diseases. The Black Plague was raging. You know what I mean? And the Mansa Musa down here with all this money. Of course, they wanted to make us out to be the bad guy. They'd already had to deal with the Moors for 800 years. All of them were Muslims too. You see what I'm saying? But go ahead, Alexis, man. Finish that thought. And look, you guys, if you appreciate what I'm doing here, man, contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. Don't have me out here doing this for nothing. We got like $10. I'm about to cut this short. I'm going to run some commercials if they don't start doing something, Alexis. But y'all contribute to the Super Chat.
That Cash App.
Yeah, man, hit that up, man. Don't do that. This is a very good conference. We could talk about we could talk about some foolishness. We could talk about Quavo. Y'all want to talk about Quavo? We can switch this up and talk about Quavo right now. But I think Mansa Musa is more important. But Alexis, the floor is yours, man. What else you got to add to this thing?
But we lost gold, but more importantly, the brain drain that we lost. Yeah, we had a great civilization, but when you destroy that and you cripple it and you take people, they die from the Middle Passage, they die from the hinterlands coming to the West Coast and the gates of no return. What happens? You have a brain drain. The people can't upkeep their kingdoms. People are fleeing into the forest because they want to stay away from all of that. What happens? Yeah, we can replace gold, but like Amos Wilson said, the wealth of man does not reside in his land, it resides in his mind. So when you take away all that, you can't replace the people that you once took.
Yeah, and
look at Africa now. It's still reeling.
It's still suffering because we were on our way. We were on our way to civilization. We were on our way to being everything but they basically took our people, they took our wealth, and they stunted our growth. But see, we participated in it because we as Africans became so desperate that we turned on each other and began to sell each other in slavery. And irrespective of what the Muslim scholars were saying, yeah, ideally they didn't want black Muslims to be sold into slavery, but after a while, anybody would do. They just needed to buy. They didn't care if you was an Ahmed or a Hangu. You see what I'm saying? You were going over there to the New World. We're gonna work you to death and get as much productivity out of you as we could. And then when you was done, we was gonna get some more Africans. And they did that for 400 years. You know, and then when go ahead.
When you think about it, they try to lowball the number and say it was 10 million. But think about it. If the average African, depending on where they were taken to, the average lifespan was from a year to 7 years. You would have to replenish those people, the men, and then get more men to come back and occasionally get more women. So the turnover of that, it can't be on the low end of 10 million. It has to be upwards of 100 to 200 million people were taken. And then those people having children there also in the New World. So this whole thing is this whole notion that
I don't know the number, brother. I don't know the number. I know it was in the millions. I know it was an atrocity. Because see, what I would do, first of all, I would see what the world population was in 1450, estimate. And then I would see what the world population in Africa was and try to figure it out. Because if you got 100 million people in Africa all together, they couldn't have taken 100 million people, because that would have been, it would have been empty. You see what I mean? But then you have to try to figure it out. I don't know. I leave that up to the statisticians. All I know is it was enough people that it destroyed our progress. It took our goal. It took our people, caused for us to forget our history. And what we need to do as Africans, instead of running away from each other, we need to run to each other. Instead of those of us of African descent, we need to come together, not run away. That running away, tribal stuff, that's how we got in the situation we in now. Turning me our back. I don't fool with them. I don't fool with them Ghanaians over there. I don't fool with those Ashantes over there in the shop. We don't fool with them. We'll sell them to the white man. You see what I'm saying? The same thing. Oh yeah, man. I'm from Alabama. I'm from Mississippi. Forget. Oh, I'm Jamaican. I'm Trinidadian. I'm FBA. I'm ADOS. You see what I mean? It's the same thing, man. The same thing. I grew up in the place. I'm from the nonsense. I'm from South Central LA. You can get shot for the color rag that you got on today. You see what I'm saying? I'm from that. Man. I see where that goes. See, we as a people, we're looking for a reason to be divided. We have too much. Black folk, you too talented. You have too much. You could be dead broke and everybody want to be like you. See, the rest of this world, let me talk to you brothers, man. You know, you gifted. God, you God's first creation. In all the biblical stories, you are God's first creation. You from the mud. He breathed life into you directly. Everybody else came after you. You got all his great attributes. You're tall, you're handsome, you're beautiful. You can survive pretty much in any weather. The women like you. All the women on earth like you. They look at you, they idolize you. The men want to be like you. The women want to be with you. You got too much. You grew up, your people were raised in a hot, warm tropical paradise on the equator. You had food, you had luxury, you had gold, you had everything. You had it all, black man. You had it all. You had too much. You greedy. So I'm saying you wasn't appreciative of what you had. And what did God do? God struck you low by a man who didn't have nothing to what you had. That white man didn't even have skin color. You see what I'm saying? He had a situation where he had the earth was against him. It was cold. He would die. He didn't have anything he can eat. He had diseases. He had animals that was trying to kill him. You had it all. You ruled the world for 80,000 years. Easy. He's been in charge 500 years. He's teaching you a lesson. You're going to appreciate it when you get back on top. I hope we never forget this history that we had to suffer. And it's not just, it's the ones that sold us and the ones that sold us and the ones being sold. We are all suffering as African men. All these great things we built. Look at the richest man in the world. This man has been the richest man in the world for the past 700 years. In 700 years, nobody's amassed more money than Mansa Musa, our ancestor, our brother, our king. The king that we had before our country was invaded, Mansa Musa, Abu Bakr II, all of them that came after that. This is what we came from. This is our tradition. We've just given away money, man. We just given away gold. We had it all. We did our kings did what they wanted to do. Yeah, man, hook me up 2,000 ships, man. I'm gonna go over here. Yeah, man, you know what? I'm about to make a Hajj. Not only is I'm gonna have so much gold, I'm gonna bankrupt everybody. This is all we had, but we don't appreciate that. We never did. We don't appreciate what we have now. And so the Lord steady taking it away. Until you brothers begin to appreciate other black men, your own women won't appreciate you. Because you don't respect yourselves. You don't even respect yourself. And so you don't even respect your brother. And so your women don't respect you because the men can't come together and respect themselves or each other. When you start respecting yourself and projecting power, everybody else will get in line. Period. They're going to fall in. When you as the king sit in your spot, everybody else going to get in line. But until you do that, nothing's going to happen. The last thing we need to be doing is fighting like babies. I'm from Jamaica. I'm from Trinidad. I'm from America. I'm an African. I'm a Nigerian. I'm a real African. I'm a real black. Y'all are one big Negro to these white folks, and everybody else would look at you. You just one big Negro. Now imagine if we came together and start doing business and start loving and respecting each other and embracing each other as Black men, period. What if we start doing that? You don't necessarily have to agree with your brother. You don't necessarily have to eat the same things he eats. You don't have to listen to the same music he listens. Just recognize him as your brother, period. Because that's what we need. See, there was a time when we were together, we were unified, we had everything we needed. And then what happened? We got robbed. Our stuff got took. We got jacked. That's basically what happened. And then we was looking around, well, I still need to come up. So we start kidnapping each other, selling each other to the white man. And what the white man do? Whooped your butt, denigrated you, disrespected you. And so now you got to sit up and look at what you did to your brother. I got to look at my African brothers and say, man, bro, look what you did to me, bro. I'm 5 shades lighter than I should be because my grandma, all my people was raped by them same white people you sold me to, brother. That's why I look like this. I look like a remnant of what I used to look like. You can still see the African in me. You can hear my voice and hear that I'm your brother. But this is what happened to me because of what you do, because you wanted them gold pots. You wanted that luxury that you had lost, that you had heard about that Mansa Musa had, that you would never get back. And so you sold me into slavery. You sold me and millions of other of us into slavery in Brazil, in the West Indies, in North America, in Central America. You did this to us, our Black brothers, and now you deny us. And here's the cold part about it. We deny you too. You deny us, we deny you, but we the same people. And the person looking at us saying, I got him and I got him fighting each other over foolishness. I ain't got to worry about nothing. Period. So I hope you all understand that I don't put these stories out here just for fun. I don't spend 10 o'clock at night. I got out of court at 8 o'clock. I got out of court at 8 o'clock. I rested for 30 minutes. I jumped right back on here to talk to you brothers. This is a necessary conversation. This is a man-on-man conversation. This is Black men talking to Black men conversation. Because until we get right, nothing else is going to get right, period. So if we can find a common ancestor like Mansa Musa and say, man, that's our king. Well, that's our king too. Why? Because we the same people. Don't let these people divide you. I see what happens when Black men get divided. Again, I grew up in South Central LA in the 80s and the 90s. What happens when Black men get divided? It don't take much. Somebody get laid out in the street. Next thing you know, you holding your homeboy. He leaking. He got plugs in it. And guess what happened? The white folks stand around laughing. What gang you from? What state he from? Yo, this is gang related. It's not our problem. Just another Negro laid out in the street. It's not our problem. Just another Negro sold to us by another Negro. We can take that back to 14, 15, 1600, whatever. That's what we did. Oh, he ain't my brother. He's a Muslim. He ain't my brother. He's from the Mandinka tribe. He's Ashanti. And we all in the same genetic hodgepodge. We all the same people. Thick lips, big broad nose, kinky hair. They don't care. All of y'all look the same when you get on that slave ship. No different. All of y'all look the same when they put you in that jail cell, when they put you on that Grey Goose and send you out to send you upriver, wherever you at. Huntsville, here in Texas, Angola in Louisiana, you know, Chino, Alcatraz in California, y'all look the same, man. And that's what I'm saying. We all the same people. All I want you brothers to do, man, first of all, look at yourself, love yourself for who you are. And if it takes you listening to Mansa Musa or somebody like, yeah, this is our king, cool, do that. But recognize that he was then, this is now. They made mistakes. We don't want to go back to that. But what we need first and foremost right now, you love yourself, you love your brother like you love yourself, unify. And not just love, respect. Because somebody can love you and run all over you. They respect you, there's something more there. And that's what we need. Respect is what? The currency of manhood. Just like attention is the currency of womanhood, respect is the currency of manhood. The more you get, the more of a man you feel you are, the more you can give out. Respect is the currency of manhood. Remember that. I respect you and I love you. And I want to see you fellas do well for yourself, man. I love you guys. This is Uncle D, man. I appreciate y'all, man. It's been a great night. I'm motivated. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, John Smith. It's Uncle D. I'm out.